Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to go over why VHIS plans are still relevant in 2021. We're going to go over the plan that I chose for my family as the most cost-effective way to insure them. Let's get started. So back in 2019, the Food and Health Bureau of Hong Kong launched the VHIS scheme, which is the Voluntary Health Insurance Scheme. The intention was to basically make private medical a little bit more accessible and transparent to the public, as well as alleviate the strain that was placed on the public system at the time. There were very few doctors per patient at the time, as well as the private sector was booming. So they wanted to certify certain plans to enable the mass public to be able to access private medical to relieve the strain on the public system. And generally, there's a few core features with VHIS schemes. Generally, if it's a flexible benefit scheme, there's a deductible which you can move around sort of after the second year. There's a no claims discount. There's a first dollar coverage of designated crises where the deductible is waived. So sort of incorporating the critical illness elements of the insurance realm into a medical plan. So you may or may not need a separate critical illness plan. And also the illustration or the actual provisions of the document that you sign is certified by the government. So this sort of builds trust and transparency for the public. So what are the three main reasons why I purchased this for me and my family? Well, number one, it is certified by the government. So there's a bit of trust there. There's a bit of something I can fall back on, if you will. And the second is actually that it is tax deductible. So for every plan that we have, $8,000 is the limit. Up to $8,000 can be written off for taxes. So if I have 4 policies, that means each of those policies has $8,000 to be able to credit towards tax offset. And normally these prices for me, my whole family, is only $3,000, $4,000 or $1,000 Hong Kong a year, but it allows me to tax deduct for the years going forward. So that really offsets the price as well, coupled with the no claims deduction, which I just mentioned. And then the third and most important is that it actually fits my needs. And because, if you couple that with a group cover, which I'll cover in a minute as well, the price point as well as the plan features where it takes over with the deductible really fits my needs. And it's sort of a lightweight business class, premium economy business class of way of insuring me and my family should anything major happen. So here are the 6 reasons why I went with FWD's V Prime Medical. Number 1, the plan size is appropriate. Doing a lot of the research on how much everything costs in Hong Kong for certain surgeries, for certain operations, what's quite common, which hospital. We went to all the hospital sites and got their price lists for surgeries. I find that around 8 million Hong Kong coverage per year is sufficient. The biggest one's going to be cancer generally, and depending on the type of treatment of cancer, you can be upwards of 1 million, 2 million very, very quickly in Hong Kong, depending on the hospital. And so I think 8 million is good. It also is a very good add-on or top up to my group medical, which we'll talk more about in a bit later. So 8 million per policy year, 45 million per life. And the plan level is sort of the best fit for me. I don't need too much more. I think it also caters for increasing medical prices and surgery costs for the years ahead. Okay, so with the plan size, also the entitled ward class, I feel that semi-private is quite sufficient for myself and my family. There are certain rooms in hospitals, such as Canossa, where you have a floor where there's actually independent rooms, but the washroom is outside. So you have your privacy of a private room, albeit a little bit smaller, and the washroom's just outside, where you may or may not spend a lot of time at anyway. So I think you can save a lot of money if you go semi-private. And then the third thing is actually Asia, which also includes Australia and New Zealand. So I went with Asia. I would plan to do my elective surgery in Asia, or fly back to Hong Kong, or fly to Singapore, maybe in Australia if I'm covered there as well, for if I immigrate there, for example. And so I think planned elective surgery under Asia is quite encompassing, which is good. I always know that for emergency, I'm protected worldwide. So emergency worldwide is covered. And so if I get hit by a bus in New York, I'm covered. If I'm in the ICU, if I have a skiing accident in Switzerland, I'm covered, and so on and so forth. To activate that, basically we use a deductible. And obviously the deductible is to keep costs low, but you need to meet the deductible threshold. So once the deductible is met by, let's say, my group medical whilst on duty, or if not on duty and abroad, my travel insurance, then really I have 8 million to claim for the emergency case. So similarly with the emergency as well as the elective surgery or planned inpatient hospitalization, I think 8 million is more than sufficient. All right, so the second reason is that it is a VHIS plan, which I mentioned before. There are tax deductions as well as no claims discount, which makes this plan going forward price-wise quite easily to manage. I'm quite price conscious about these things. So I think going forward, it will be pretty cost efficient to run. Right, reason number 3 is that it covers pre-existing conditions from the 31st day. These are obviously conditions that you do not know about at the time of application. They've manifested over, maybe a year or 6 months since your last check, for example. You don't know about them, but there's generally a waiting time with every insurer. And for V-Prime, it's actually very, very short, only 30 days. Previously, it was 60 or 90 for other companies, but we're only 30 days. Now, of course, if you have something within sort of the first few months, it's considered a short claim by the company, and they have the right to look back at your medical history or call your doctors and get more information before you make that claim. But generally 30 days is very, very short. So generally the wait time is 30 days. This sort of leads into, if you don't have a medical, or you have a medical right now that's covering your pre-existing conditions, such as Bupa, which you have had a relationship with for so many years, don't leave that yet, because you need to overlap the coverage, or else you can potentially get caught and not have any coverage. Whilst this one doesn't kick in, that one you haven't renewed, and you're exposed financially, potentially. So, just some food for thought with regards to waiting periods. All right, number 4 is a waiver of the deductible, or what they call a first dollar coverage, waiver of premium, waiver of deductible for the premium. So if there's certain critical illnesses that you are diagnosed with, such as heart disease, cardiac arrest, some sort of terminal type illnesses, I think there's a list of about 20, then basically the company just wants you to get better. They don't need you to pay any deductible if you have a deductible. Just go get fixed, throw 8 million at the problem. And I think it's terms and conditions like this where I really appreciate, because they're basically saying, this is serious, go get yourself fixed. It could be terminal, go get yourself fixed. So I really appreciate that. All right, and the last reason number 6, is that the premiums have not increased for 5 years, and I've validated this. And it's because I think their pool is big enough. All the money goes into this pool that's collected as premiums for a certain product, and then it gets invested, and then obviously there's claims from the pool, and then there's premiums coming in. And there's basically a reserve ratio. So if there's too many claimants, then there's not enough of the reserve. And by law, or by regulation, they have to increase the premiums of everybody so that they can maintain that sort of reserve. And so that hasn't happened for the last 5 years, which gives a bit of trust that I know that these premiums won't increase from what I see in the product brochure. All right, and a bonus session is some Q&A, just a few I've gotten over the last few weeks from people that want to apply with me for this VHIS, and I'll just shoot them off. So the first question is, Do I need to get pre-approval to go ahead with a surgery and a claim? How long does it take for a claim? And the answer is generally no, simply because pre-approval, if you're using it in a sort of a company setup before, you're spoiled because you can just basically go get it done and you're covered. With these kind of plans, if you have a deductible, you cannot use the sort of cashless facility. And in this case, FWD is not the first claimant. It could be your group medical that's the first claimant. So you need to know who's the first claimant. Is it yourself or is it the group medical? And in both cases, just let us know. We're here to help. We're able to call ahead and make sure that diagnosis and that procedure is reasonable and customary. So then you're basically okay until you actually get the final hospital bill and hospital diagnosis by the doctor. So it's all kosher. Then that claim will be validated for you, assessed for you, if you will. So in this case, you don't specifically need pre-approval. It has to be a registered hospital, so not like a holistic center. But generally, I think you are okay in that regard. Okay, the second question is, you want to clarify the deductible. So we always get questions about this deductible, for example, the $50,000 Hong Kong deductible. Let's say the surgery coverage was, a small amount, $40,000, and that's of the group medical. So group medical covers $40,000. The actual surgery was $70,000. So the person's asking, does he or she need to cover $10,000 before they can claim the outstanding amount? And the answer is yes. So generally yes. However, in most group medical cases, they have what we call a MMS, which is a major medical supplement, which is usually a tag-on at the end of, okay, we have itemized benefits, and then we have this major medical supplement, usually $100,000 in our case, and that will cover most, if not other, outstanding items. So it's because of that also that I think that the larger deductible, which makes running costs cheaper, is a better choice as well. And so to answer your question, I think that if you're below certain limits, very small claim, obviously like a minor classification, then potentially, but the MMS should kick in. Obviously, if you're above, then the limits are above. Like if it's a complex major or intermediate, it's already above 50 grand. And therefore your deductible is already paid for, that part of it, by the first claimant, your group cover anyway, in which case everything else can be covered by V Prime. All right. Hi, Michael. Is there a limit per disability with FWD? Nope, there's no itemized limit per disability. It's just full cover. And the full cover is $8 million per year, not per disability. The deductible is per year, not per disability. So in the previous case, if there was a small amount, you can use that, aggregate up, for the year and only pay the difference, which needs to be covered for the next illness, for example. So it's an aggregate buildup. But generally there is no limit, which is fantastic. Generally, the older plans with the group medical have a limit, itemized limit. That's just how they were designed. But for us, with the standalone plan, a VHIS plan, V Prime in this case, there's just $8 million for the year. And the last question is, with the deductible and the benefits of a group medical, what would you suggest in the deductible amount to be? And I've actually already answered this. Because of that MMS, because of where the limits are for complex, intermediate, major, minor, that and the MMS, I feel that the larger deductible would better serve you going forward, simply because it's cheaper, and most likely the group cover will cover it. So if the plan further degrades, you can actually adjust the deductible from 50, let's say, to 25 or to 16, and pay a little bit more annually, because it is called a flexi plan, and you can do that after the second year. All right, that's it for this video. That is the reason why I've chose the VHIS type products as well as FWD's V Prime. Obviously, as mentioned in the previous video, I'm an agent there. I'm a plug. I can serve myself better by being on the inside with the insider knowledge, with direct lines to the claims department, underwriting department. I have a secretary to serve all my clients. We monitor everything digitally. We know the claims process. We've done claims. We have a track record. So I feel more comfortable going forward doing this whole thing. It's also why I'm choosing this product. So if you haven't had a look at that video, check it out. Why, things to consider for medical, as well as if you're an FWD client, one of my clients, check out the video on the FWD Moments app. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.